Welcome to the SAU Report. I'm Rex Williams.
And I'm Erin Clark.
Today, our guest is Dan Gregory, the voice of the Muleriders. Dan, tell us how you got started in broadcasting.
You want the short version or the long version?
Give me the
It was
good
the long
version.
one.
Well, I never went, this may get into something you wanted to talk about later, but I never really went to college as such. Got out of high school, working in a factory, and didn't take long to figure out that wasn't what I wanted to do the rest of my life. So went to a broadcasting school in St. Louis, Broadcast Center, and kind of worked and went to school at the same time, and was sent to Magnolia. This was my first job interview, was in Magnolia, and I've been here ever since. That was 1978. Okay. And here I am. I'm still here.
Good.
Now, are you from the St. Louis area or?
The area, yes.
The area, okay. So that's how you got started, or that's how you went to school in St. Louis?
Right, yes.
So what sent you to Magnolia? You said you had a job interview, but why Magnolia of all places?
The people at the school, they send you out on job interviews, and told me that we've got a job that's open in Arkansas. I said, I don't know if I want to go as far as Arkansas. And I said, well, it's just down there by the border.
Right.
Leading me to believe the northern border rather than the southern border. So I get home and look at it. I've already committed, and I got home and looked at it on the map. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. I've never been to southern Arkansas, so I came on down, and I've stayed. I've been here since, like I said, '78.
Well, did you get started with somebody's asking you to do that because of your voice, maybe, or what made you exactly pick the broadcasting field?
This is good for a good ad for radio, because I actually heard it on the radio. There was an ad running for that particular broadcasting school on the radio there in St. Louis, and so that got me to thinking a little bit, and so I decided to go ahead and try it out. And you go in for an audition and all this,
right.
And I don't think they've ever told anybody that you're not good enough. You're not cut out for radio. They want your money, but so I stuck with it, and I went, like I said, I went a couple of years there, and then came down here.
Well, it seems to be a pretty good choice. You've been pretty successful, so at what you do, and I know SAU's pretty glad to have you as the voice of the Muleriders. I've listened to you several times, and I can honestly say there's only about 2 or 3 people on the radio doing sports broadcasts that I've really enjoyed their voice. They may can do the actual game, but the way their voice sounds is a key factor, especially when you're talking radio, because that's what the people associate you with. And you've got a tremendous voice for doing radio. I know that.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about the KVMA, KWDO difference. When did they split, or exactly what happened there?
Well, KVMA is our AM station. KVMA AM is at 63 on the AM dial, and KWDO is our FM station, which is at 99.1 on the FM dial. There was a KVMA FM, and it's, I guess, a couple of years ago now. It was sold to a group that moved it to Shreveport, and then the KWDO frequency came available in this market. So we just basically, when that one moved to Shreveport, we just moved over to KWDO FM, and just basically kept on going.
Good.
Now, I was going to ask you, who was your role model growing up as far as news and radio, but apparently growing up, this wasn't what you thought about doing. Radio was that ever something you thought about doing?
Didn't, but I mean, I guess, Jack Buck with the Cardinals and people like that, I always enjoyed listening to them, but I never dreamed that I would ever be doing anything like that, even though on a smaller scale. I'd never dreamed that, but no, I really didn't think of radio until, like I said, I just got sick of actually working for a living.
Now, what exactly do you do at the radio station? What are your
Well, I guess a typical day, I go in, I do a morning show from 6 to 10 every morning, weekday mornings anyway, well, Saturday mornings too for that matter. Do a morning show live on the air, disc jockey type thing, playing songs, doing the news, things like that. After that, I'm basically selling advertising. We do small town radio. You do everything. You do a little bit of everything, which is really what I like about it. You're on the air. You're selling. You're producing commercials. You're doing sports. You're doing a little bit of everything. So.
Right.
Well, have you ever thought about doing TV broadcasting, or have you always just wanted to stick to the radio? Have you ever thought about doing TV instead? Or?
I think I'm like Coach Steve Quinn says. He says we both have faces for radio. So maybe we need to both stay on radio.
Yeah. How did the voice of the Muleriders come about? How did you come into that position?
It just I guess developed over the years. I moved here, like I said, in '78. Actually, the first sports I ever did was, and I never really even dreamed of getting into sports when I came here, but we used to do boys club baseball during the summer months. We did a boys club baseball game of the day, and so I kind of went from there, and after a while we quit doing that, but Ken Sibley had been doing SAU sports forever, and he decided that he's had a family, and he kind of got tired of the traveling, so it just gradually passed on to me. I started off with the basketball in the '82-'83 season was the first year I did that, and then just gradually over the years I picked up football and baseball when we started doing the baseball games too.
Yeah. Well, how did you actually get hired? Because this is a good question. A lot of people may not understand. The voice of the Muleriders, is that a position the school had anything to do with, or was that more the radio's decision to put you there? Did the school have any say-so, or we would like to have him do this, or was it?
I don't know if I want to give the school any say-so on that. No, really, it was just we were the local radio station. It's not an SAU station. It's just a local, commercial radio station that just happens to do the Southern Arkansas games. So no, it just kind of came about through the radio station.
Through the radio, so it's pretty much you have nothing to do with the school as far as your salary or anything else. You're strictly strictly with the radio station.
Yeah, strictly an employee at the radio station.
Okay.
Yeah, the school has nothing to do with that. I mean, I enjoy I spend a lot of time with the school, but no, they don't sign my paycheck or anything like that.
Good.
That might be a good thing, huh? I know since you've been in sports and you broadcast sports, there's got to be a certain sport that you like broadcasting more so than another. I don't like sports, so it would be hard for me to do anything. I wouldn't know.
You're going to get me in trouble with one of the coaches.
No, I don't mean.
Whatever I answer, I'm going to be in trouble with one of the coaches now.
I don't mean to get you in trouble, but there's got to be a game that you like to follow more.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what's easier for me.
Okay, that's a good one.
Which is actually the one that I started off doing was basketball, and it may be just because that was the first one that I did for Southern Arkansas, but also it's so fast moving. I'm not too smart, so it's fast moving, and you really don't have to think. The action is so fast you don't have time to think. You just pretty much tell what's going on. What I try to do, and I don't know how successful I am sometimes, but you try to paint a picture of what's going on there on the court or on the football field or on the baseball diamond. So basketball is faster, so it's easier, I think, for me to do. But I enjoy them all. Baseball, we do baseball, football, and basketball.
I would have figured it would have been exactly the opposite. I would have figured basketball would probably been harder. Pretty much on a basketball game, you're having to know everybody's name on the whole team. You get to a football game, it's a little slower paced. All you have to know is the quarterback, maybe the running backs and the receivers. The lineman doesn't get mentioned too much.
I'm going to say the good thing is on a basketball court, you've only got 10 players out there at one time.
Yeah.
On a football diamond, you got 22 out there that you've got to keep up with at one time, and then plus you've got special teams guys coming in all the time, and we always have cheat sheets no matter what the sport is. We have cheat sheets, and of course baseball, then you've got 18 guys out there at one time. So. It's just because it's so fast moving, but like I said, I grew up in St. Louis area, so everybody's a Cardinal fan in St. Louis. You've got to love baseball in St. Louis, so that probably was my first love as far as sports is concerned. But and I like I said, I enjoy doing them all.
Oh, we won't mention anything about the National League.
No, we don't want to get into that. Or the World Series last year. We don't want to talk about that either.
We'll skip all that. No, you're a Cardinals fan.
I'm just glad that they got close.
Well, I'm just totally lost when it comes to sports, so I don't really know what y'all are talking about. But well, let's go back to the radio station. Now, a lot of people often wonder how radio stations make their money. So can you go into that and tell us how radio stations get their money?
Pretty much just the ads that you hear on the radio are pretty much it. I mean, you've got, you've got some of these satellite things now where you have to pay a subscription, kind of like cable TV. You pay for your radio, but no, local radio, it's free on the airwaves, so there's nothing coming in there. It's just strictly from the advertising.
And do you have different packages you present to people for price ranges and stuff as far as
Right.
30 seconds, 15 seconds, or whatever?
Right, yeah, basically whatever they need, 30s, 15s, 30, 60-second ads. We've even have some programs, especially on Sunday morning, we have some religious programs, things like that. So they're basically, whatever length that you need.
And you do a lot of the selling too, as
Yeah,
far as advertisement?
Yeah, I go out, I sell a lot of it, produce a lot of them, just depending on what the customer wants. So some of the customers like to do their own ads, just whatever, and we can do that too.
Well, how long has the actual
And
KVMA?
you too can advertise on KVMA.
Wow, what a
let's give him that
salesman, what a salesman.
Anything else?
You want to give my phone number?
How long has actually KVMA been in existence?
The AM station, and I don't remember the exact year, but it was in the 40s, 1940s, when it first went on the air. Matter of fact, we have the newspaper from the day it went on the air hanging framed in our hallway over there. It was 19, and I can't remember the exact year, 1940 something. It was April, I believe, of 1940s. And our old FM, KVMA FM, went on the air in the 70s. Like I said, then KWDO went on the air a couple of years ago.
How many employees do they have there?
We have, I think, 4 full-time employees. Can I use my toes? I don't think I need to get to my toes. We have, I think, 4 full-time employees, and it varies on our part-time sports season. Sometimes we have a little more because we have, if I'm off doing a ball game somewhere, there's got to be somebody back at the station putting it on the air, and that's what a lot of our part-time people do. So it varies, 2, 3, 4 part-time people that we have working for us at any particular time.
And Ken's probably been there longer than anybody right now?
Yeah, I think Ken started there when he was in high school. Which,
Wow.
I don't know if he wants us. I don't know if he wants us to go back to when that was, but
That tells you something right there. You've been here since 1978.
Yeah.
And he's been here since he was in high school. Must be something with the area or the community, or maybe the radio station there, the people that you're working with, that keeps the people here that long. Because I know in that particular field, there is a good turnover.
yeah, there really
in that
is,
field.
especially in
So
large markets. Yeah,
it's
there's
real-
a lot of turnover.
It's good to see somebody that stays in one market as long as they have,
Well, I
as long
haven't-
as you and Ken have.
I haven't used one of those words on the air that I'm not supposed to use yet. So I guess now it may all change tomorrow, but so far so good. No, I really enjoy it. I enjoy the town. I enjoy the association, working for the radio station, and enjoy the association with SAU, with the athletics. A lot of good people in this town, and a lot of good people in this university from the top on down to the little minor assistant coaches and players and everybody else. It's just a lot of fun.
Someone once told me, and I don't know how true this is, but KVMA, it stood for Come Visit Magnolia, Arkansas. Have you ever heard that before?
That's
You
new
never-
to me.
They have. There have been a few things over the years that people have. Of course, you always try to.
Right.
Yeah,
Try to make it
something
cute,
like
I
that.
guess you could say.
Yeah.
But someone once
But
told
I
me
don't
that.
think that there ever was an official
Well,
Come Visit Magnolia, Arkansas, or I think at one time they called it the kilowatt voice because AM is 630 kilowatts. So,
Right.
they called it the kilowatt voice of Magnolia, Arkansas, and there have been a few different things over the years.
What else have
We're
you
still
gotten
trying to come
into?
up with something for KWDO, by the way. We're having a hard time thinking of
that
something. for them.
WD is going to be kind of close, and hard to. What have you done other than working with SAU? Do you do other athletic events in town, in Magnolia?
I do, well, I do the Magnolia Panther football every year, and last year, before Jonathan came back, I did all of the Magnolia basketball as well. Thank goodness for Jonathan, he's back with us now, and so he's going to take on the Magnolia basketball duties, and Jonathan helps us with football too. But I do, basically, normally do the football for Magnolia and then do all the SAU sports.
Do you have a partner that's been with you a while, or is it you pretty much do everything on your own?
Well, basketball I do on my own, just mainly because I talk so much that nobody would have time to talk. And like I said, it's a fast-moving sport, so you don't really
Right,
need it as much. I guess it would be okay, but I've just done it all these years by myself. But you get into football and you get into baseball.
Slower.
And it's good to have somebody to, to bounce things off of
Right.
and, come in there and explain a little bit of what's going on. The parts that I don't understand, they can explain for me. Jay's good about that in football.
Yeah.
Jay Adcock's the athletic director, helps me in football. And Jonathan's going to help a little bit with the baseball this year, the SAU baseball, and Jeff Harrington's done it for a lot of years, and I'm sure he'll do some of the baseball with me as well. And when we get hard up, we even bring in Coach Quinn. Coach Quinn usually comes in and works about, one game a year with us.
Have you ever thought about doing anything on TV? I know, for example, Dave Nitz at Louisiana Tech has a Joe or a football program that he records.
You're talking about
literally
local?
right there after the games.
Yeah.
He'll get the coach on there and do an interview with the coach for Louisiana Tech football. Have y'all ever thought about doing anything
for Southern Arkansas University?
Yes, for SAU.
It has been discussed in the past. It's never really got beyond that stage, but I'm sure that there's going to be money involved. You get back to the old commercial thing. You have to have you have to have sponsors and I guess nobody's just really ever done the legwork to do that. But I think it would be interesting and it'd be good for the university.
Yeah, it would.
Okay, I'm going to take us back a little bit. I'm going to take us off sports a little bit
Okay.
and talk about advertising again. If a business in Magnolia wanted to do advertising on the radio, who would they need to contact? What would they need to do? How would they need to get that started?
We have 3 full-time salespeople with Ken Sibley. He's the manager, and he handles some sales. And me, Dan Gregory, 234-5862.
Hear that, everybody? 234-5862.
He's doing good.
Jonathan Wolf are our main salespeople there. So sometimes they contact us, other time we contact them. Anyway, but we're the 3 basically that handle the advertising there at KVMA and KWDO.
Now, who are some of the local businesses that have stayed with you for a while doing advertising at the radio station?
Oh, a lot of, and I'd rather not get into mentioning specifics because I don't want to leave somebody out and get them mad at me. They may yank their advertising tomorrow. I don't know if we could do that. But the local banks, the insurance agencies, there are a lot, especially with, and I know you're trying to get away from sports, but especially on the sports broadcast, we have a lot of the local banks and local institutions in town that really help out a lot with that to help bring those games. Because again, it's like everything else on radio. It wouldn't be there without the advertisers, and there are just a number of businesses in town. Retail stores,
Right.
Coca-Cola plant. Just
Right.
all kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Do you have a specific thing you like best about radio?
Oh, probably. I mean, the sport. I love the sports. The travel is kind of wearing me down a little bit every now and then.
I was fixing to get into that. Do you actually travel to every game that the basketball team plays and the football team plays?
Yes.
And
which with football can be as far as Valdosta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Wow.
Being in the Gulf South Conference. Yeah, but most of them, like basketball season, once you get into conference play, there's nothing really more than a 3.5 hour drive. It's usually, you stay in the West Division, whereas football, you cross over and you go, and I say that about basketball, but I mean, we just got back not long ago from a trip to San Antonio, so we get around quite a bit then too. But yes, I do go to wherever they are, the football games, the basketball games, and we do all the conference baseball games.
Mm-hmm. I can tell you like basketball by looking at your tie because of the, not baseball.
I pulled that out of mothballs, yeah. It's basketball season, yeah. But the only problem is it's got that Henderson color to it. I don't like that too much about it. If anybody has a blue and gold one, I'd like to have.
there you go.
Okay, let's talk more about the radio station. What kind of music does KVMA, KWDO, what kind of music do they play? Who?
Our AM station plays country music, but it's more oriented toward news. We do a lot of local news, state news, national news, and just kind of the country music is just, it's in there. But it's not like in 25 songs back to back type thing. It's there's a lot of news in there. And the FM station and the FM station too, and that's the whole thing about local radio is you've got to that's the reason people listen to local radio, is because you inform them of what's going on in the news, or local sports, things like that.
Now, does KVMA, KW...
The FM, by the way, is adult contemporary, which is basically a lighter form of rock. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I didn't finish answering the question.
Now, does KVMA, KWDO, does it have any sister radio stations, or is it just...
Well, the AM and the FM, I guess, are sister
But there's
stations.
not like El Dorado or...
Well, we're owned by Noalmark Broadcasting, so there are stations I think 6 stations in El Dorado, and a number of stations in Hot Springs, and they have some stations in New Mexico. I mean, yeah, they're
Okay.
In that particular corporation, yes.
Okay.
What are you most proud of in your career, that something you may have pioneered that the station had good success with, maybe for a particular type program or a particular type show, a news broadcast, something you may have pioneered?
I don't think I'm going to be getting any pioneer awards.
An idea you had that took off. That went
Well, I mean,
really
we gradually over the years, I mean, we've picked up more of the local sporting events. I mean, we carried, and we've always, I guess, done football and basketball since I've been there, but we've picked up the baseball, and we try to give coverage to as many of the sports, particular local sports.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I guess, my biggest area of interest is the sports. So, we try to give as much recognition to as many sports as possible, especially, Southern Arkansas University, and even some of the area schools as well,
Yeah.
at the lower level of high school.
Mm-hmm. Well, every time you cover a game, you're covering another team's game, another team's school as well. So
That's true.
yeah,
That's
so
true.
do you have a particular role model that may have got you started
In radio?
in radio?
No, it was just kind of that would be kind of neat. I think I'm going to try that. And
Have a role model?
and here I am. How many years later? It's been a few years,
Yeah.
but I didn't really. I mean, that wasn't what got me into radio. Like I said, there are a lot of sports announcers that I've listened to over the year that I've admired.
Yeah.
And Jack Buck in St. Louis, and Harry Carey back in the old days.
Oh, yeah.
Used to be in St. Louis before he went to Chicago, and people like that.
Give me a greatest memory of any sports broadcast you did. One of your highlights.
Probably, this was about 2 or 3 years ago. I guess one that really stands out just because it was so dramatic is Brent Foster hitting a grand slam home run to beat University of the Incarnate Word. He hit it in the bottom of the ninth, down in the bottom of the ninth inning, and he hit a walk-off grand slam home run. That was probably one of my biggest thrills, although, winning the Gulf South Conference Championship with the football team and things like that.
97.
And we've the basketball team, since I've been doing the games, has been back in the NEI days, been to the national tournament a couple of times. So there are a lot of moments, but probably just for one moment, that grand slam home run has to rank up there pretty high.
Do you find yourself getting caught up in the action, but sometimes you may have to try to hold back, or do you actually sound like you're
Rooting for a certain team?
You're
Like,
right.
I try not to, and
being a homer?
I try not to, because I hate it when I hear people doing that. But I think I've been doing it so long that I've turned into one, and I also don't like people that criticize the officials, but I probably do it more than anybody else. So, but yeah, I'm probably pretty much of a homer.
Okay, well, Dan, I appreciate you being with us, and it's been good meeting you. And this has been the SAU Report,
I'm Erin Clark.
and I'm Rex Williams.
Thanks for tuning in.